just being able to listen to Rhea Combs and Sarah Lewis and even be in conversation with them, just as a arts worker, as a Black woman, it just felt really great. And I'm happy that this museum creates these type of opportunities.
I thought the program was very moving. I was actually moved to tears to see two beautiful women of color on stage having a conversation about representation in the museum space. But I was also equally moved to see a beautiful woman of color introducing them who works here in the museum. So personally, as a woman of color who works in the arts, who works for the government in the arts, I just felt so empowered.
For me, today's Fresh Talk was groundbreaking because I don't remember the last time I've seen 3 African American women leading a talk. And definitely not 3 African American women who were curators. So for me, this was a groundbreaking moment. Earlier today, I came from the National Gallery of Art where I was watching a curator present Gordon Park's work. Gordon Park came up a lot tonight for both curators, which I thought was interesting. And even after the talk, during the dinner, he came up. And for National Gallery of Art to be featuring his work is amazing, but the curator was a white man. And the way in which he framed that information was completely different than the way in which the curator tonight framed that work. So my question is to the curators that I wasn't able to ask, and for other people to think about is, how critical is it for people of color, for curators of color to represent artists of color? And how does that change the content being shared?
I was really enamored with tonight's program because to see 2 Black women in discussion about visual representation and justice was really important to me as a Black woman, and it certainly resonated personally in that way. And I'm also just really excited to learn more about being able to look more closely at things, and I really just want to get my hands on Sarah Lewis's syllabus as well.
I thought today's program was incredibly important because often you see large institutions trying their best to be apolitical and shy away from difficult conversations. And I love that the National Museum of Women in the Arts doesn't do that. They're not afraid to ask difficult questions. They're not afraid to face hard truths, and they bring in such an incredible array of people to come give these talks, experts who have years of experience in this, who can contribute not just to the climate and atmosphere of the museum itself, but give something back to the audience who's come that could be life-changing.
As a man in these kinds of events, I think it's important mostly that I come to listen, in particular, to hear voices that, as I was growing up, maybe I didn't get to hear, viewpoints that I didn't get to see. And I think talking about images, the power of images, being able to see the world through different people's eyes. Even in today's world, we get to see a lot, but it's still very easy to be put down and siloed in your own community, in your own reality. And it's important to be able to see reality through other people's eyes and the things that, and that has a lot of power.
I'm still processing it. I'm just so inspired by tonight. I'm an artist myself. I'm a documentary filmmaker. So part of my drive and my inspiration is that I believe that memory and imagination are like the most powerful places where people heal and solve problems and, get inspired to make, the world a better place. And to hear 2 amazing experts talk about the power of images in some of the same ways that I think about, and I'm inspired to make the work that I make, was really affirming, but it also just pushed me to even expand the impact that I want to have. And I just like being in the type of environment where you can think, you can laugh, you can eat, you can chill with folks, like having that all in the same space. That's really just such a fertile environment.
As a woman of color in the arts who's leading an arts organization in PG County, it was so incredible for me to see two legendary Black women leaders, curators, thought partners who have been doing this work for decades. I'm inspired. I'm fired up. I feel really good about the work they presented on how social justice is the cause, is the mandate, is infusing into the mainstream of what we're here to do. And the question I asked later tonight about diversity in the arts and how we get more people of color into leadership was answered so brilliantly by Sarah and Ria. It gives me hope for tomorrow.
These women are brilliant. Ria and Sarah are people who I've been interested in following and understanding the work that they're doing. It was like watching honey and molasses being poured out of a jar. They were so smooth and eloquent. They both come from the Claire Huxtable School. They smile, they tell you the truth, they're brutally honest, but they do it with style.
Tonight's program was amazing. So this was my first time coming to a Fresh Talks. Having these type of communal dinners that are followed or after a long discussion and presentations that are about things that are happening in the social climate, I think that it's really important that the community actually comes together as a family to discuss solutions and figure out ways that we can answer some of the questions that are brought up. And I felt like I was a part of the solution that is about to happen, thanks to some of the things that are happening here at Fresh Talks.
I think it was great, primarily because of the intersection between vision and justice. And I had never in all of my life heard of that kind of frank discussion on the part of African Americans in a mixed audience. When we all together at the NAACP dinner or an Urban League dinner, we just sort of make it plain. But these women, Ms. Lewis, Ms. Cohn, they made it plain in this mixed environment. And I go to hundreds of these things a year. And this was a very profound and an honest discussion and of the sort that we need in order to make progress as a people of color in the United States.